And this one, the revenue for the government is going to be around $500 million per annum.
What I've seen here is actually magnificent. And this is an example of what Nigerians can do.
What if we told you Nigeria just stumbled upon a hidden fortune worth $12 trillion? A discovery that could flip global energy politics upside down. Lithium, the metal that powers electric cars, grids, and the future itself, is buried deep in Nigeria's soil. But is this just another story of Africa being looted? Or the moment the continent finally writes its own rules? Let's find that out. The world woke up to headlines that seemed almost unbelievable. Nigeria, Africa's most populous nation, has discovered lithium reserves valued at an estimated $12 trillion. The news didn't just ripple through economic circles. It detonated across boardrooms, stock markets, and political war rooms from Washington to Beijing. Lithium, often called white gold for its pivotal role in powering electric vehicles, renewable energy storage systems, and the very devices people carry in their pockets, is now Nigeria's unexpected trump card. Unlike oil, which has defined Nigeria's past, lithium belongs to the future. It is the mineral every major economy desperately needs as the world accelerates its shift toward clean energy. For years, demand has been outpacing supply, with China, the US, and Europe scrambling to secure stable sources. Now suddenly, Africa's giant is holding one of the largest potential jackpots in the global supply chain. The announcement didn't just shock investors, it instantly redefined Nigeria's strategic importance. Analysts immediately began redrawing maps of global energy flows, pointing out that the states of Kaduna, Nasarawa, and Kebbi, once peripheral in discussions about oil or agriculture, are now set to become epicenters of the new energy order. Images of miners and officials surveying raw earth that may one day power millions of electric cars have already become symbols of a new era. Nigeria, long criticized for its over-reliance on crude oil, now stands at the dawn of an entirely different industrial identity. But the true earthquake was not the discovery itself, it was Nigeria's response. In an uncharacteristically bold move, the government announced that lithium would not leave its soil in raw form. No ship would carry unprocessed ore to foreign factories. Instead, all refining, processing, and value addition must happen inside Nigeria. For a continent long haunted by the scars of extraction and exploitation, this was a historic declaration. It was not just resource nationalism, it was an economic revolution. Markets quickly took notice. Shares of companies invested in lithium spiked, while automakers whispered of rising costs if they couldn't secure Nigerian supply. China moved fastest, dispatching delegations and greenlighting investment in local processing plants. Meanwhile, murmurs in Western capitals betrayed unease. If Nigeria holds firm, it could mean tighter supply chains and higher prices for industries desperately chasing green targets. For once, Africa wasn't waiting to be invited into the global conversation. It was dictating the terms. This shock also revealed an uncomfortable truth about the global economy. While leaders preach about clean energy transitions, few anticipated Africa would take such a decisive role in shaping it. Nigeria's $12 trillion revelation makes it impossible to ignore the continent any longer. For ordinary Nigerians, the discovery has been met with cautious hope. Could this be the resource that finally translates into jobs, infrastructure, and opportunities? Or will it become another story of wealth that never trickled down? Even within Nigeria, the symbolism is profound. For decades, oil was both a blessing and a curse, enriching elites while leaving millions in poverty. Lithium feels different. It represents a chance to rewrite the nation's story, to move from dependence to independence, from extraction to innovation. Yet the stakes are dangerously high. Get it right, and Nigeria could stand shoulder to shoulder with the world's industrial powers. Get it wrong, and history could repeat itself in another tragic cycle of lost potential. And that is where the real question emerges. Can Nigeria, a nation so entangled with the politics of crude oil, truly pivot into a future defined by lithium? Can it escape the resource trap that has plagued it for generations? For more than half a century, Nigeria's story has been written in oil. Ever since crude was first pumped in the late 1950s, the black liquid became both a lifeline and a curse. It built highways, skyscrapers, and elite wealth in Lagos and Abuja. It also created dependency so deep that whenever oil prices tumbled, Nigeria's economy collapsed with it. The nation became a textbook case of the resource curse, a country rich in one commodity, yet impoverished by its over-reliance on it. Oil revenue accounts for nearly half of government income and up to 90% of foreign exchange earnings. That dominance left other industries, agriculture, manufacturing, and technology, underdeveloped, choked by the fumes of easy oil money. Farmers abandoned their fields, factories withered, and policymakers tied the nation's destiny to global crude prices beyond their control. For ordinary Nigerians, the result was devastating. Unemployment rose, infrastructure crumbled, and despite billions earned, poverty deepened. Oil wealth enriched the few, but never transformed the many. This is why the lithium discovery feels so radically different. It isn't just another resource boom. It is a chance to rewrite the national blueprint. Unlike oil, lithium is not a fossil fuel dependent on global consumption habits. It is the engine of the future, a mineral indispensable to the world's transition toward clean energy. The more countries commit to phasing out petrol and diesel cars, the higher lithium's value climbs. In essence, oil demand is destined to decline, while demand for lithium is only set to surge. Nigeria understands this shift, and it explains why the government immediately declared that lithium would not follow oil's trajectory. No longer would raw commodities leave ports cheaply, only for Nigerians to buy back finished products at inflated prices. Lithium, officials argue, must be harnessed differently, refined, processed, and transformed domestically into the high-value goods that power the global economy. If oil locked Nigeria into dependency, lithium offers the key to independence. But can this shift truly happen? After all, oil dependency isn't just economic, it's political. Powerful interests, both local and international, have been built on oil rents. The petroleum elite, deeply connected to foreign corporations, have long controlled the levers of power. For lithium to deliver independence, Nigeria must dismantle or bypass these entrenched networks. That means redirecting revenues into schools, research centers, and manufacturing hubs instead of oil subsidies and political patronage. The potential upside, however, is transformative. Imagine lithium revenues funding industrial parks where batteries are assembled, creating tens of thousands of jobs. Picture highways and railways financed by lithium wealth, connecting factories in Kaduna to ports in Lagos. Envision universities training a new generation of engineers in renewable energy and material science, turning Nigeria from a raw material supplier into a technology innovator. That is what lithium independence could look like. For Nigeria, this transition is more than economic. It is psychological. For decades, citizens have been told their destiny rests in oil fields and pipelines. Lithium offers a new narrative, that Nigeria can stand at the center of a cleaner, smarter world. It is a chance to break the mental chains of dependency and embrace a vision of prosperity that isn't tethered to fossil fuel cycles. Still, ambition must meet reality. Infrastructure is weak, governance is fragile, and corruption remains a constant risk. But the difference now is that global momentum is on Nigeria's side. As nations race to electrify, they need lithium more than ever, and Nigeria has the leverage to set its own terms if it dares to enforce them. The key question, then, is how Nigeria plans to transform this resource from raw discovery into industrial power. What exactly does processing at home look like, and how is the government making it happen? That takes us to the next stage of the story, the birth of Nigeria's lithium economy. Let's pause for a second to say, big thank you to the Black Culture Diary community, where Black voices, stories, and legacies are preserved and amplified. By becoming a member, you're not just supporting the channel, you're becoming part of a powerful cultural movement. Let's continue. When Nigeria announced that lithium would not be exported raw, it wasn't just making a statement. It was laying the foundation for an entirely new industrial ecosystem. The pledge to keep processing within the country is more than policy. It is a blueprint for transformation. For decades, Africa's resources left its shores in their cheapest form, only to return as finished products that ordinary citizens could barely afford. This time, Nigeria has declared the cycle will be broken. But what does this decision look like on the ground? Already, the first outlines of a lithium economy are beginning to emerge. Processing plants, many with backing from Chinese firms, are being set up in Kaduna and other central states. These aren't symbolic ribbon-cutting projects. They represent an integrated approach to minerals. The vision is to create a value chain that stretches from the mines to the factories, raw ore extracted, refined into lithium carbonate or hydroxide, and then fed into domestic manufacturing facilities for batteries and other high-value goods. Instead of shipping away rocks, Nigeria wants to ship out finished products that command real global value. The impact of this strategy ripples outward. Mining communities that once served as extraction zones are being tied into industrial development plans. Roads, power lines, and water infrastructure are being extended to regions where lithium deposits lie. For local farmers and traders, this infrastructure means more than lithium. It means markets, connectivity, and new opportunities. Schools are also being looped into the vision, with new technical training programs designed to equip young Nigerians with the skills to work in refining plants and research labs. The goal is not only to mine lithium, but to grow a workforce capable of sustaining an entire industry. Technology transfer is another crucial element. By requiring foreign companies to build processing plants locally, Nigeria is creating leverage to absorb the know-how that has historically bypassed Africa. This approach echoes the strategies of countries like China and South Korea, which demanded local investment and knowledge sharing during their industrial ascents. If successful, Nigeria won't just have factories, it will have the technical expertise to innovate within the lithium battery value chain. Over time, this could evolve into homegrown Nigerian firms producing not just refined lithium, but batteries, storage systems, and even electric vehicles. The numbers tell a compelling story. Analysts estimate that local processing could add billions to Nigeria's GDP annually, compared to the narrow margins of exporting raw ore. More importantly, it could create tens of thousands of jobs across mining, logistics, research, and manufacturing. Every stage of the value chain, from digging up ore to assembling a finished battery, offers employment opportunities that can lift communities out of poverty. In a country where youth unemployment has been a ticking time bomb, lithium's promise is as much social as it is economic. Yet none of this is without challenges. Building a domestic lithium economy requires reliable electricity, and Nigeria's power sector is notoriously fragile. Processing plants need an uninterrupted supply, meaning the government must invest in power generation alongside mining. Logistics is another hurdle. Transporting heavy ores and refined products requires functioning railways and highways. Corruption, too, lurks as a threat. Contracts must be transparent if the benefits are to reach beyond political elites. Still, the difference this time is intent. The government's insistence on local processing signals a seriousness not often seen in past resource booms. What makes Nigeria's plan even more significant is how it reshapes its negotiating power. No longer a passive exporter, the country now demands partnership on its own terms. For foreign companies, this means adapting to Nigeria's rules or losing access to one of the largest untapped lithium markets in the world. For citizens, it raises expectations. If plants are being built at home, then jobs, infrastructure, and visible improvements in daily life must follow. This experiment in resource management could either serve as a model for the continent or unravel under its own weight. The stakes couldn't be higher. Nigeria isn't just building factories, it is building the skeleton of a new economic order. If successful, the lithium economy could become the engine that powers Nigeria into middle-income prosperity and industrial relevance. But as the first processing plants hum to life, another reality is becoming clear. Nigeria's lithium isn't just a domestic story. It has ignited global attention, and the world's biggest powers are already circling. Which raises the next question. How is Nigeria navigating the scramble of foreign interests all vying for its white gold? Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now. The discovery of $12 trillion worth of lithium under Nigerian soil has not just reshaped Abuja's economic plans, it has reconfigured the global chessboard. Almost overnight, Nigeria has become the stage for one of the fiercest resource competitions of the 21st century. For years, lithium deals were discussed in the context of South America's Lithium Triangle, or Australia's vast mines. Now, suddenly, Africa's largest economy has entered the conversation, and the world's superpowers know they cannot afford to ignore it. China was the first to act. Already dominating the lithium supply chain, from mining in South America to battery manufacturing at home, Beijing understands that securing Nigeria's reserves could solidify its leadership in clean energy technologies for decades. Delegations of Chinese investors and engineers have been dispatched to Abuja, offering financing, technology, and partnerships. Their message is clear. China doesn't just want access, it wants integration, building the processing plants and infrastructure Nigeria demands. For Beijing, the strategy is about keeping its factories supplied, but also about deepening its footprint in Africa, where it has steadily expanded influence through the Belt and Road Initiative. The United States, however, views this development through the lens of rivalry. Washington has long worried about China's near monopoly over the lithium battery chain. Nigeria's refusal to export raw ore complicates matters for American firms, which had hoped for cheap imports to feed their factories back home. Instead, U.S. officials are scrambling to position themselves as partners, pitching Nigeria on deals tied to clean energy financing, democratic governance, and even security cooperation. Yet behind the promises lies anxiety. If China secures Nigeria's lithium, it could push American automakers and green industries further behind. Europe, too, has entered the race, though with a different angle. The European Union has set ambitious climate targets, requiring millions of electric vehicles to hit the road by the 2030s. But European supply chains are vulnerable, and Nigeria's lithium could be a lifeline. Brussels is negotiating trade frameworks that would not only give European companies access, but also allow them to present their involvement as sustainable partnerships aligned with Africa's development goals. European leaders frame their offers around green investment and ethical sourcing, hoping to distinguish themselves from the extractive models of the past. What makes this scramble unprecedented is Nigeria's stance of strength. Instead of being pulled into deals where it surrenders control, the government is dictating terms. Officials are insisting that any foreign partner must build infrastructure, create jobs, and ensure technology transfer. This has shifted the tone of negotiations. Nigeria is no longer a passive supplier, but an arbiter deciding who gets access and on what conditions. For the first time, global powers are adjusting to Africa's rules rather than imposing their own. The geopolitical ripple effects extend beyond economics. Nigeria's lithium puts it at the center of strategic rivalries. For China, success in Nigeria reinforces its dominance. For the US, failure could mean strategic vulnerability in the race for clean energy. For Europe, being sidelined would undermine its climate ambitions. Meanwhile, other powers like India, Russia, and Turkey are watching closely, seeking opportunities to carve out influence in a rapidly shifting landscape. For Nigeria, this attention is both an opportunity and a danger. On one hand, the competition could bring investment, infrastructure, and technology that accelerate the country's industrial rise. On the other hand, it risks turning Nigeria into a geopolitical battleground, where foreign interests jostle for control, and domestic elites are tempted by short-term gains. The test will be whether Nigeria can harness the scramble to serve its own people, rather than become ensnared in new dependencies. The stakes extend beyond Nigeria's borders. Across Africa, governments are watching how Abuja manages this moment. If Nigeria succeeds in using global competition to its advantage, it could inspire other resource-rich nations to adopt similar assertive strategies. If it falters, it could reinforce the old narrative of squandered opportunities. And so the question emerges, is this just Nigeria's fight, or is it the signal of a broader African awakening? Is this discovery a national turning point, or the opening act of a continental revolution in how Africa handles its resources? Nigeria's lithium discovery may have grabbed headlines, but it is not an isolated story. It is part of a deeper, louder shift sweeping across the continent, a collective roar from Africa that the era of exploitation is over. The old playbook, where raw materials left African ports cheap and finished goods returned at a premium, is being shredded by governments determined to capture value at home. Nigeria, with its $12 trillion find, has simply become the loudest voice in a growing chorus. Take Ghana, for instance. Long known for cocoa, the West African nation recently banned the export of raw beans. The message was simple: if the world wants chocolate, it must buy it from Ghanaian factories, not European ones. In Zimbabwe, the government clamped down on raw lithium exports, insisting that batteries, not rocks, should carry the nation's future. In Burkina Faso, gold, once siphoned off by foreign corporations, is now under national control, its profits redirected toward domestic priorities. Each of these moves has sparked backlash from international lobbies, but together they signal a pattern. Africa is learning to say no. Nigeria's role in this awakening is pivotal. With its size, population, and economic weight, its choices reverberate far beyond its borders. If Abuja enforces its rule of no raw exports and successfully builds an integrated lithium industry, it creates a precedent other nations can point to. It tells Africa that sovereignty is not a slogan. It is policy in action. In many ways, Nigeria has become the test case for whether Africa can seize the commanding heights of the clean energy future. This collective awakening is not just economic, it is political. For decades, the continent was treated as a supplier to the world, rather than a partner in shaping its direction. That model left Africa vulnerable to price shocks, debt traps, and underdevelopment. But now, as the world scrambles for the minerals that will power the 21st century, Africa finds itself in an unprecedented position of leverage. Countries need what Africa has: lithium, cobalt, gold, platinum, and manganese, and they need it urgently. That shift in demand hands the continent bargaining power it has never held before. Yet leverage means little without unity. This is where Nigeria's leadership becomes critical. By aligning its lithium strategy with broader continental initiatives like the African Continental Free Trade Area (AfCFTA), Nigeria could help create an integrated market where raw materials are refined, processed, and traded within Africa first. Imagine lithium from Nigeria feeding battery plants in South Africa, cobalt from the DRC fueling storage systems in Kenya, and Ghanaian cocoa powering an African-owned chocolate brand exported worldwide. Together, these pieces form the foundation of an Africa-first industrial order. Of course, the risks are immense. Foreign powers are not blind to this shift. Attempts to divide, pressure, or undermine African governments will intensify as billions, perhaps trillions, are at stake. Corruption, short-term deals, and elite capture remain threats capable of derailing the movement. But the difference today is awareness. Citizens across the continent are more vocal, more informed, and more insistent that resources serve the people rather than line the pockets of a few. Social media, protests, and grassroots movements have become watchdogs, ensuring leaders cannot easily sell out national interests without consequence. Nigeria's lithium, then, is not just about energy or economics. It is about identity. It is about a continent declaring that it will no longer accept being the world's quarry. It is about Africa moving from the periphery to the center of the global stage. The roar we hear is not only Nigeria's, it is Africa's collective voice, louder and more determined than ever. And so the story comes full circle. From the shocking discovery in Kaduna's soil to the geopolitical scramble it unleashed, from Nigeria's bold policies to the continental awakening it embodies, this is more than a breaking news cycle. It is history unfolding. The only question left is whether Africa, led by pioneers like Nigeria, can sustain this momentum and finally turn its resource wealth into true independence. That is no longer a matter of possibility. It is a matter of choice. Do you think Nigeria will truly turn its lithium into independence, or will history repeat itself? Let us know in the comments section. Is Africa finally strong enough to rewrite the rules of global trade? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If so, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious Blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.